party started. All right. Now is 5:01. I call this meeting to order. This is the FedRAC meetings for October 26, 2021. Do we have any public comments?
There are no public comments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are moving to committee business. Before we do that, I want to recognize that we do have committee members, Linda Kochma and Leander Kraft. In addition, we have Council President Susan Honda. And let me check to see if there's any other council members here. I think that's about it.
I see Councilmember Baruso. I see Councilmember Baruso on the screen.
Welcome, Councilmember Baruso.
Thank you.
Great, and of course, we have our staff, Steve Bloom, the Director of Finance, and other support staff. So welcome. All right, the first item is approval of summary minutes of September 28, 2021.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of September 28, 2021. Is there any question or discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The matter passed 3-0. Thank you. We are moving to item B, adding new position of Title VI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, DEI Analyst. Sarah?
Good evening. Give me a second to share my screen. Thank you for having me. Tonight I will be presenting on the addition or the proposed addition of a new position titled Title VI, VIII, and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Analyst. The policy question will be, should the City Council authorize the creation of a regular full-time Title VI and VIII and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Analyst to operate out of the general fund and be funded through a combination of general fund, transportation funding, and CDBG funding? Tonight, I'll provide an overview of the proposed position, including the collaborative effort to move the position to full-time. As a note of explanation on what Title VI and Title VIII are, these are titles of the Civil Rights Acts of 1964 and 1968, respectively. That as a recipient of federal funds, the city must develop and implement plans and strategies to address both of these titles. Title VI specifically prohibits discrimination and exclusion from participation on the basis of race, color, or national origin in federally funded programs and activities. While what I'm about to say is an oversimplification, one of the most common ways that Title VI is thought of is in terms of language access. That's probably the most common that you would have seen in the past. There's a lot more to it, and how the city ensures access and inclusion is exhibited by the 70-page Title VI plan for transportation. So language access is just that really visible piece. Title VIII prohibits housing discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, familial status, national origin, or disability. Most commonly, we will see this as it relates to the Community Development Block Grant funded projects. The vacancy in the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Coordinator position presented an opportunity to review the goals of the position and the related Title VI and Title VIII work. It was a collaborative effort with E.J. Walsh and Desiree Winkler in Public Works, Vanessa Audet as the Human Resources Manager, and then Brian Davis and I in CD, with the Mayor's Office and City Council representatives as well. Vanessa is here this evening and she can address questions along with myself and Steve Groom and others. The proposal creates a more comprehensive DEI program, including the implementation of strategies for the Title VI and Title VIII work. The proposed the proposed position would report to the Community Services Manager. The work itself is citywide and includes both Title VI related funding and Title VIII related funding. So it will be a collaboration with Community Services, Public Works, and Human Resources. Additionally, the proposed position includes a title change to the Title VI and VIII and Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Analyst. This title better reflects the responsibilities of the job than the coordinator title did. The funding that would allow for the shift from a part-time limited term position to a full-time permanent position is outlined here. As you can see, the proposal is using the currently budgeted $70,000 in general funds. Those funds were budgeted for 2021 and 2022. Making this permanent would have a longer term budget impact as well. And then we are adding $20,000 each from transportation and CDBG. While developing the proposal, we worked with Steve Groom as the finance director, as this would become, again, that permanent position. And he would like to just provide a little insight on the financial plan.
Sure. What Sarah has provided is a very clever is not the right word, but it's a well thought out plan, because none of these require a budget amendment. She's working within the existing budgets of all the three funds, and by splitting up the position into three different funds, that does enable her to get it to a full-time position, which, as she's already explained, get as much. It's just a smarter way to go for recruiting and retention. So the question is of how we pay for it is already taken care of, and I think that this is a really elegant solution. Go ahead, Sarah.
Thank you. And you're giving me a lot of credit that I don't deserve. This was definitely a group effort, as I mentioned, involving multiple departments and staff. And I can't even take credit for starting the conversation about moving this, using these funding sources. But thank you, Steve. This is a high-level overview of the primary proposed job duties. As you may recall, the part-time coordinator position did have a lot of outward-facing and internal work. Those will still largely be retained. Some of those have changed. And then it adds those federal components, again, with that Title VI and Title VIII. I'll run through these quickly. If you have questions, feel free to ask me. I'll provide the opportunity at the end. The proposed staff position would complete the Title VI plan and annual reports. While largely focused on transportation, one of the conversations that we did have is how this applies to other federal funding sources and in general across the city. The position would develop and train on limited English proficiency outreach and engagement standards, again, an element that could translate beyond the Title VI requirements. For Title VIII related work, the staff would complete assessments, an implementation plan, and reports for fair housing strategies. Currently, the city has adopted the King County analysis of impediments to fair housing choice. This is because we're part of the Home Consortium, so the 4 entitlement cities, including Federal Way, worked with King County to develop that plan. That plan will shift in the future with the reinstatement of the affirmatively furthering fair housing rule, and that will require additional staff time and to implement the CDBG program. This presented a great opportunity to do that with the staff position. The staff would provide citywide internal DEI review and consultation in conjunction with human resources. They would serve as a staff liaison with the Diversity Commission. An example of what that might look like would be policy and plan documents going before the commission, such as the Title VI plan and annual reports, where they can be reviewed by that commission. It's in alignment with their codified purpose as it is right now, and also in alignment with where the commission would like to move. They would like to carry out that purpose, and this presents another opportunity to do that and bring documents that can serve the city well to the commission and then council as appropriate. The position would develop and facilitate community engagement and participation in city programs, emphasizing traditionally underserved and underrepresented community members. And then another role would be to identify Title VI, Title VIII, and DEI training and development opportunities for elected officials. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Sarah. Committee members have any questions? Wow. I'm gonna call on Linda Kochma, please.
Thank you very much, Chair Tran. So, Sarah, I have 3 questions. The first one is a statement. I don't think you should call this a permanent position. I think the proper term would be regular. a full-time regular position, because the permanent implies that they're going to be permanently hired. So I think that you might check with HR on that. Okay. I actually was corrected on that years ago, so you might want to double check on that. Okay.
We'll talk
So
about thank you.
thank you. And then second question, strategies. That's kind of nebulous to me. I'm wondering what that really means. Strategy for housing. What does that really mean?
Yes, so there are a number of strategies that we already have in that analysis for impediments, which is a document that has been adopted by City Council in 2019. And those strategies include some around education, development of materials, so we can put out materials for landlords and for tenants on, what Title VIII actually means. It's not something that we have. We don't have those resources here, so that's a strategy that we can employ.
Okay. Yep. Okay, I got that. Okay. Then my third question, I don't really mean to have you, because I now I know which direction you're going. And then third, my question is, DEI review, which would, that would be diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion review. Is that regarding staff, that has staff are hired, that there's a review on whether they're diverse? Is that what that's meaning?
It can mean different things. Vanessa, I would let you do this, and I can also address a little bit of the conversation. Maybe you can add. It is a consultation with other departments around how we make decisions and policies and implement programs with a DEI kind of lens. So asking questions around, like what we do with our grant making. Is this accessible to our community-based organizations? Who are the recipients of services? Are we hitting that, hitting the need across the city? It looks different for each department and division.
Okay.
Vanessa, what if you want to add, please do.
I think you're doing a good job. But for instance, with language access and language access to city services, that may be something that Public Works is really focused on right now, but it may be something that Community Services isn't quite sure how to bring to the building counter, or how police could, involve or expand that. So it's taking DEI principles and kind of teaching internal staff how to apply that to existing city programs and services, and then build upon that. So for instance, in HR, we do recruiting and we're going out facing in our recruitment efforts. It will be good to have that person who's an expert in those areas provide insight into what we're already doing as an outsider, almost a consultant to my department, or on areas they think we could improve upon. So they'll really be the DEI expert citywide, but bringing a focus and strategy to how each department can individually emphasize that within their programs and services.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Committee members Kraft, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Tran. So, Sarah, if I'm understanding the job description correctly, this is more inward facing, or Sarah or Vanessa, whoever wants to answer that question.
I would say actually, no, this position is more external facing. Inward, I perceive HR as being the more internally focused DEI drivers. This position is really going to be able to engage with the public in a way that's not just under the guise of DEI, like, hey, because now we're interested in DEI, we're sending this person to you. They're going to be bringing transportation projects to communities that it immediately impacts their community. It's not trying to build a relationship under the umbrella of DEI. It's building the relationship and access to the city and providing feedback on the transportation project that's actually occurring and real in their neighborhood. And that, essentially will begin to build those community relationships, and then we can expand on that and how we can, bring DEI and serve in other ways. But I think it brings the city to underrepresented groups who don't traditionally feel comfortable engaging with staff in a way that is very tangible for them because it will immediately impact them, whether it's a public works program or service or a housing initiative out of community services. That's why we chose to have this position report through community services to really have that community impact.
Great. And so a couple more things. This will take a look at sort of the hiring practices of each of our departments as well, right?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. And then the other statement I just wanted to make is I see that the proposal or the recommendation is to forward this to the consent agenda, but I'm wondering if anyone felt like it would be good for the public to hear the presentation that was given tonight.
And it is actually my understanding that the mayor had worked to have it moved to the business agenda. And they were coordinating that. The packet had already been submitted, so I'm not sure that motion should be amended to reflect that.
Okay, thank you.
Council President Hunter, go ahead.
Thank you. So this person will report to Brian Davis then? Is that what I heard?
The position would report to the community services manager, so me, but within the community development department.
So then you'll have 3 people in your department, in your group.
Yes.
Awesome. What's the salary going to be? Will it be the 110 that was listed there?
That includes both salary and benefits, but I don't have the range in front of you, Vanessa. I don't know if you want to address that further.
Yeah, we comped it at a range 39. I can pull up our salary grid real quick and give you those numbers.
Okay.
But the budget included salary and benefits. Range 39. You bear with me one second. Is about $6,087 a month to the top end of $7,709 per month. So we would hire someone in there, probably in the earlier steps of the range, commensurate with their experience.
So what qualifications would this person need to have?
Just opening that. So we have a variety of qualifications. Because of the federal funding, we are looking for that as one of the starting points. DEI experience, so working in that arena, and I'm just opening, I apologize, I had closed the position description and did not reopen it before this meeting. So pulling that up now, and that is a work plan. Vanessa, if you have it particularly handy.
I can grab it pretty quickly here.
I didn't save it.
I know one of our priorities, aside from education and experience, was specifically wanting to have the background in grant funding. And because of the work with Title VI and Title VIII and the associated grants with that was part of the job requirements. But we are looking for and asking for and confident we can find someone with this skill set. The combination of education and experience that would equate to a bachelor's degree and 4 years of progressively responsible experience in EEO, workforce, diversity and inclusion, affirmative action plan implementation, and Title VI or Title VIII compliance work.
So do other cities have such a position as this, or are we making this position up?
I think other cities are beginning to have positions similar to this. What I find in some of the diversity and equity committees and commissions and transit authority groups that I've participated in my past life and current life is that there is sometimes a lack of direction or how to get things off the ground. Or they have the positions, but they're not really contributing in a real way just yet. Everyone wants to do something, but they're not really sure what to do. which is why Sarah and EJ and Desiree and I and Steve and we all got together and thought, where are opportunities to really have this person come in and be impactful right away. And I think that was our focus in creating this position. And then how can we fund it and make sure that we're meeting all of our current DEI responsibilities and requirements, because we do have them federally under Title VI and Title VIII. And right now, those duties are being performed by, in public works by engineers who, they're doing great work. I don't want to say that they're not doing great work, but their primary focus is the project management or construction and design. I mean, I think this will be a benefit to our engineers to be able to hand this off to somebody who's truly an expert and whose job and role it is to be dedicated in this respect. The same with the housing in Sarah's group, and then also the Diversity Commission. I think we've struggled a little bit at that commission and bringing from the city, having real tangible items that we can bring forward to that committee in a way that makes sense. And I think this position will solve that and help the committee to meet their purpose. It was really a brainchild of us. I won't say other cities have a position exactly like this. I'll say cities are starting to have positions, mostly that I've seen in HR. But when someone is in HR, we're an internally facing department. The most we do externally is recruitment. Our services, we're an internal service provider. So I was hearing differences in what the council was seeking and what the community was seeking with regard to DEI, with what someone I could manage in HR would really be capable of doing, or what the DEI coordinator job description, the type of applicant pool that draws, was not really what we wanted. So this re-envisionment, I think, captures everyone's interest and is more citywide focused than what we had done before. And I think we'll also be more successful as diversity and equity and inclusion is kind of making its way out there in the world. We've got more people interested in those career paths, and they are seeking full-time employment.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I want to recognize Councilmember Lydia Asefa Dawson here with us, and she has a question. Go ahead, Lydia.
Thank you, Chair Hong. Actually, it's not a question, but it's a comment. King County Housing Authority hired a DEI director recently, maybe 2 months ago. But also internally, we have a committee of staff from different departments that have been doing the race and equity work. And so I'm really happy to see this being approved and moving forward. And I hope internally too that there are staff members or people or committee, and I don't know how this person wants to move forward, but I don't think they can do this by themselves. And I know you touched a little bit on that, but hopefully this position is going to be one that's fulfilling, because they're not only dealing with staff, but I think it's also going to be community facing. So I just want to make sure that they are successful. But I'm really excited about this position, because I was a little concerned that it was taking too long after our last person left. So thank you so much. And I'm really excited about it. And I hope we can all rally behind them to make sure that they're going to do well. So thank you all who are involved in making this a reality. Thanks.
I don't know how much I can say, but I just want to say thank you so much to Sarah, Vanessa, Steve, all the directors and the mayor office for working on this and upgraded this position into a full-time position. I think this is a critical position that we need. It's a little bit overdue, but better late than never, right? My agency have this position for the last 5 or 6 years, and each and every one of us in the agency of 17,000 people are required to go through civil training each and every year. That is a requirement because we do receive Title VI money. And Sarah was right. Title VI is talking about the language access. So, I hope this is the first step, but there will be more good things to come from this position. I think we all need to commit it to this DEI position. And just like Lydia mentioned not too long ago, this is not just one position that can make a difference, but it's a collective effort of everyone at City Hall and member of the council to make this work. So I hope to see this, take off. Again, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay,
I do just want
that,
to take 1 second really quick just to
Sure.
recognize that this was really Desiree Winkler's brainchild. I know she's not speaking here tonight, so I'm careful to take credit for other people's ideas. I just want to say, Desiree, we were ready to go back out. We were, ready to interview, even though we didn't really yield great candidates by volume or experience. And Desiree brought this to the table, and we kind of started over from scratch and put our heads together. And I think that's honestly how we came up with the best idea and strategy for this position. And I do fully believe that this position is going to serve the city well.
Great.
Thank you.
Good work. All right, with that, I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I would move to forward the creation of the proposed position to the November 3rd, 2021 business agenda for approval.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The matter passed 3-0. And now we are moving on to item C, Fairway Pack Ticketing System Proposal Acceptance. Autumn, welcome.
Thank you. The question before you is in regards to the Federal Way PAC ticketing system. In June, we went out to bid for this. And the question before you tonight is, should the City Council accept the proposal from ETIC Inc. for the Federal Way PAC ticketing system? In looking for the next possible vendor for ticketing over at the PAC, one of the number one parameters that we set aside was not having an annual fee strictly based off of a contract with a vendor, but based off of ticketing sales. I'm happy to answer any questions should anybody have them.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? Seeing none, I will take a motion.
I'm just,
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So that's okay. I wasn't quick enough there. So the ETIC ticketing system cost will be zero to the city, but can you tell me, is there a reason why we're switching, or
So
it's a bid, but I don't know, there's no bid here.
we already went out to bid. This is now the proposal that, so you'll see ETIC's proposal just after the agenda bill, as well as the proposed goods and services agreement. The bid was brought to FedRec back in June and went out publicly at the beginning of July, and we accepted bids until about August 16th. So yes, the cost.
So did the FedRec go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yes, FedRec.
Go ahead, Autumn.
FedRec approved us to go out to bid, and it went on to the consent agenda at the beginning of July. And then we went out, and it was out for about 4.5 to 5 weeks. And we received 3 different responsive bids.
And so then those bids, I simply don't remember it. They came back to FedRec for approval, the bids?
This is the approval of the bid, or of the proposal that we received with those bids.
But what is what is the bid amount?
It's 0. It costs the city nothing. So currently,
I don't see.
So currently, the contract that we have with
Okay.
Audience
Oh, thank
is
you.
costing the city about
Okay.
$40,000. We went back out to bid because the Performing Arts and Event Center, as well as the community, has had significant challenges with the ticketing system that's currently in place, and our contract is set to expire in March of 2022. So to allow
okay.
for
Thank you, Adam. So I'm just trying to understand how how ETIC gets paid? If the bid is zero, and the amount we were paying previously was 40,000. So how did they make their money? So much per ticket, or?
So similar to how our ticketing is set up now, we do have a per ticket cost. There are several different fees that a user will see when they purchase a ticket for the Performing Arts and Event Center. Very similar to if you go to Tacoma Dome or any other arena or venue. There's ticketing fees associated with your ticket. It's not just a $50 ticket, and every venue is different. That has currently been how we've been able to try and recover the cost that our contract was requiring. Now, moving forward, if we don't sell a ticket, there's no cost to the city. So it's very similar to the end user. We just, for instance, if we had another shutdown due to a pandemic or anything else, there's no hard costs within the ETIC's proposal. It is purely based off of ticket sales.
Okay. So then, in fairness to the people who buy the tickets, are they paying an average amount for this ETICS? I just don't know what amount they're actually paying for the ticket that would go to ETICS.
So if we look through our proposal, and I can share on my screen here for you, Brian can probably give a little bit more detail as well in regards to this question, because there are a couple of different fees that are associated with each ticket sale, just as they are now. And when we compared all of the proposals that came back to us in comparison to the current fees that we have, this was the only one that was comparable, and that wouldn't significantly increase ticketing fees to the end user. I will pull
so that's what I was trying to get at, whether it would increase the ticketing for the end user. That's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
It was extremely important to us when we looked through proposals, not only that all of the features were available, but that it wasn't a significant spike in fees to the end user. We want a better experience for them, but not at a significant cost.
Thank you.
Also, President Hada?
Thank you, Chair. So the first time we bought tickets to the PAC, I was surprised by all the additional fees on the ticket. So what is the fee per ticket? Does it depend on the cost of the ticket?
It depends on the cost of the ticket. There is a sliding scale.
Okay.
The low end is about $1.25 for the one fee plus credit card processing fees. We don't anticipate that the fees will look any different than what we currently have. Again, they're across the board. Most of the ticketing companies are about the same. What it really boiled down to for us is not only functionality for the end user, how easy is it to get onto the website, get onto the mobile platform, and purchase a ticket. And Brian can attest to this, and so can many other people within City Hall who have received phone calls, it is a challenge sometimes trying to purchase a ticket on the PAC website. We've all tried it. We're well versed in it now, but we want to make it easier for the new patrons that are coming into our facility. So once we got past that and the other functionalities, there's going to be ticket fees regardless. How do we at least keep them in line? And we did receive a proposal that was significantly higher. And that didn't seem fair either to the end user, even though they're expecting fees. Wanted to try and stay with where we've been at.
I don't know that anyone expects a fee when they originally buy a ticket to a venue. They're there with just about everything these days, but I don't know that anyone really expects it. I think they expect it to be worked into the cost of the ticket, so that if the ticket's $50, it's $50. It's not $64 or something.
And we certainly have the option to do that. There are some promoters, there are some renters that prefer to have their tickets set up that way. And then on the back end, we figure out the numbers and whatever their ticket price is. and we've done that in the past, but I would say a majority of them prefer the transparency of what somebody's paying for. And so it's kind of hit or miss. I think, Brian, you can speak to this. That's something that we would be open to discussion about if that's something that the council felt we needed to determine as sort of a policy for the PAC. But we've always maintained that transparency as far as showing our patrons what the costs are.
That is correct. And we, depending on the user group, will allow them to work with our box office staff of exactly, President Honda, how you described it. If the net ticket fee is 25 plus fees, you're only seeing 36 at the checkout. Some of our user groups and our resident artist user groups like to see it broken down to show the end user what the net ticket cost is plus the fees, as well as you factor in if it's a for-profit entity, you have to add on the 5% city admission tax. So that's another line item that is in there. We do it both ways, where it's a lump sum and it might be $65, and then on the back end, we break it down of what the net is and everything else. So it just depends on what that particular user group wants the end user to see.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate your answers.
I think the added fee is very common because when I bought tickets from Ticketmaster or StubHub, for example, I do see the added service fee in there, and to be honest with you, I like to see that. I want to see how much do I pay extra. So
right.
Yeah, so with this proposal, essentially, we save about $40,000 if we go with this company, correct?
Well, if we're selling tickets, they're going to be making a profit, right? The biggest thing was last year we couldn't get out of that contract. I mean, we were closed almost the entire year. We couldn't sell tickets, but we still had that expense. And so looking to the future and crossing our fingers and hoping that we're out of that and we continue to be able to bring patrons into our facility, it felt like the best option to be able to be responsible, when it comes to budgeting. So yes, if we don't sell any tickets, there's zero cost. But as Brian and I have discussed, we hope that we sell lots of tickets and they receive their end of the deal on this one. But
right. Thank you. Is there any other questions? No?
So Chair Tran? Go ahead.
Yes.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Sandra.
I move to forward accepting the bid and approving the proposed agreement with ETIC Inc. to November 3rd, 2021 council consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Great. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 The matter passed 3-0. Thank you, Adam.
thank you.
Okay, we are moving on to item D. This is a long title. Acceptance of the U.S. Small Business Administration Shuttle Venue Operator Supplemental Grant Award for the Performing Art and Event Center. Whew. Adam.
Thank you again. The policy question before you is, should the city council accept the $177,022.80 supplemental award funding from the U.S. Small Business Administration Shuttered Venue Operators Grant for the Performing Arts and Events Center? Back in July, in the spring, April, we came to city council and asked if we could apply for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. That amount was $354,045.60. We were awarded that grant for the Performing Arts and Events Center in July. Fast forward to August, U.S. Small Business Administration announced that they had additional funding and would be notifying award recipients that they qualify or do not qualify for a supplemental award. We were notified that we do qualify for a supplemental award, and we just needed to verify our Q1 and Q2 revenues for 2021. Their parameters were showing a certain loss between 2019 and 2021. When we verified our Q1 and Q2 revenues, we received notification that we were also awarded this additional grant. So the question before you tonight is simply, may we accept this supplemental grant? It has the same parameters as the original Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. The only change is that they have now extended our award timeframe to June of 2022.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? Well, we love the additional money, so I guess we don't have any other questions.
Perfect.
I would take the motion.
Okay. I move to forward accepting the supplemental award funding from the U.S. Small Business Administration Shuttered Venue Operators Grant for the Performing Arts and Events Center to the November 3rd, 2021 Council Consent Agenda.
You are muted.
You're on mute, Linda.
Wow, my goodness. I could hear myself, but yeah, I second that, hon. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The matter passed 3-0. Autumn, this is great work. Thank you so much. You guys already brought in more than $500,000 into the city. So
No, it's a combined effort, but thank you. And a huge thanks to Tim Johnson for all of his help and Brian Hoffman in assisting to get this done.
I think the council owe you guys a coffee or something, you know. Good work. Thank you.
all.
All right, that was good. Okay, we are moving to item E, resolution 2022 fee schedule. Steve?
Thank you, Chairman. This is the first of the remaining 5 agenda items. We have now gotten to the truly entertaining and educational portion of the program. These are all going to be finance items, and these are either monthly recurring or annual recurring. The first one is an update of the city's fee schedule, and Chase Donnelly, our Deputy Finance Director, and I have provided a cover memo in your packet, which I think summarizes pretty well the routine nature of all of these. But in the interest of transparency and accountability, Chase is going to highlight on the screen here and summarize why some fees are increasing. And I think you'll see that for the most part, many are required fee increases that don't have any city discretion, which means we really need to pay attention to compliance or something like that instead is what we're actually doing. This is also consistent with other surrounding jurisdictions, and Chase has got the screen going. He has worked closely with staff from other departments. And so really, he's the better person to speak to this agenda item. So I will get out of his way. Chase, if you would go right ahead and share with us. Thank you. And Chase, you're muted. Chase, you're muted. Oh, I know.
There we go. There we go. Now I have it. So good evening. Can you hear me now?
Yes, when we're screen sharing, we have to juggle a couple of different things. Well done.
So can you see also the PowerPoint that has the summary on it?
Perfect.
We do.
Good. Great. So for the most part, RCWs determine fee schedule changes that keep up with inflation as measured by the CPI index. That means there are formulas that staff has followed, and it's just a matter of doing the math, getting your review and approval, and posting them publicly. There are a couple other categories, but again, I think we're seeing that there isn't much to discuss. What we want to do here is do a good job at being transparent. So the next 3 slides discuss a few of the areas. CPI adjustments to community development, public works fees, school impact fee changes that come directly from the school district capital facilities plan, an increase in community center membership fees that I'll address, and then a new item for shopping cart that is in addition to the new program. So first, to start with the school impact fee, this section can be found in section 13. The information, like I said, comes from the Federal Way Public Schools Capital Facilities Plan, and the proposed change includes a decrease of single-family residents from $3,243 to $1,845 per dwelling unit, and multifamily residents from $16,003 to $15,073 per dwelling unit. And as you can see, that's section 13 in the impact mitigation of your packet. The next item that I'm going to highlight is the community center membership fees. This section can be found in your packet in section 15. The fee increase is between 3 and 5% with no adjustment to daily use or corporate fees. A market study was conducted by the community center and found that membership prices were below competing offerings with similar amenities. One of the reasons for this increase is that minimum wage and supply and equipment replacement costs have steadily risen over the past 3 years, and this increase will help maintain the reserve at the community center. And so one comment that I'll make is just the changes are in red, and so there's 3 different areas. One is the monthly contract, one's the monthly 1-year contract, and then a full payment for a contract, and those are the various different prices for the resident and non-resident fees. And Steve, were you?
Oh, and I was just going to add that this is an enterprise fund. An enterprise fund is one of the few areas that the city can adjust pricing to keep pace with inflation or costs. So we're trying to be cautious about doing that. Thank you.
And again, this is in section 15 of the fee schedule in your packet. And then one of the other areas that I would like to highlight is the abandoned shopping cart. This section is found in your packet in section 3 on miscellaneous fees. The Community Development Department already has an abandoned shopping cart program, and this is in addition to the fee schedule. One change that was communicated from the Community Development Department today was to change the new abandoned shopping cart delivery fee from a 5-cart minimum per hour fee to a per delivery fee. So you'll see in the fee schedule that says per hour. It needs to be changed to per delivery fee. This fee description will be adjusted in the resolution forwarded to council consent agenda on December 7th. And here it is highlighted here on the chart. So our recommendation is for approval to the December 7th council resolution approval. And we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
We know that in your packet there was a lot of fine print and lots of tables, numbers. This was our best effort at making it interesting for you on the screen.
Thank you, Chase, and thank you, Steve. Committee members, do you have any questions? Chase, can you take down the share screen?
Yep.
Thank you. There you go. Committee member Linda Kochma, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair Tran. Would you go back over the school impact fee? It went from what to what again? It's really hard to see on this printout.
I think I have
Chase,
the number here.
Yep.
Muted.
Let me reshare the screen so you can see those numbers.
Thanks.
Sorry.
We need.
Can you see the main screen?
Nope, we're seeing the other one. Instead of screen 1, it should be screen 2 or the other way around.
There we go. Is that good?
Nope.
I'll just go grab the number real quick.
I do have the number here if anybody want to. Okay, so it's go from $3,243 to $1,845 for a single home, and it's go from $16,003 to $15,073 for multi-housing unit.
Going down
you went so fast it was hard for me to. So if there's a condominium that's being built, then that would go under the multifamily, the $15,073. Is that correct?
That is my
For
understanding.
example, if it's an apartment or condominium, it doesn't matter how many, I mean, is it, so I'm trying to understand that 16,000 down to 15,000, is that for the entire building, no matter how many units are in the building?
It's a per unit fee.
Is it per unit 15,000 for a condo or an apartment?
Yes, per unit.
Per unit versus the 1,200 for the,
Yes.
oh, there it is. Wow, that's a lot. That would preclude people from building anything worthwhile in our city that would be in the way of a condo, because that's a lot of money for a condo for a school impact fee. I'm wondering why so much? If it's per unit.
So this is the
I mean, in other
formula.
words, people can get money for,
Go ahead.
if you get money for low income housing, you get, the developer gets help that way. But, you know, one of our goals is to build housing for new homeowners. And the only way some of our new homeowners can is through buying a condo. But if the condo is $15,000 for the school impact fee versus, well, it looks like it's 1,800 or 15. That's hard to see. For a single family residence, it's a huge difference. I'm trying to understand why, you know, if you're in a condo, why that would be so much more than, because it's the impact on the school. So you're thinking about kids going to the school. Why would it be so much greater than that for a single family residence?
This is based on the
I
school
don't
district's
get it.
formula.
Well, is the school district trying to preclude any multifamily buildings
So this is
other
based on.
than low income? Because that's all we're going to get.
Sorry, Councilmember Coachmar, I think your connection's a little behind, so I'm assuming you're done. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, very good, thank you. So this is based on the school district's formula that the city has adopted for the last, I don't know how many years, that's been consistently adopted by the council. If there's a desire to do something different than what the school district has presented, that's the council's, this is a city fee. Ultimately, it's a city fee that is adopted. We don't collect the fee ultimately, it's a pass-through fee. So the city does not see these fees. We're merely the collector of them in partnership with the school district. So we have consistently adopted the formula that the school district uses for its school impact fees, which is based in statute and other laws. The city does have a reduction that we adopted, the council adopted last year based on the number of bedrooms. But this is ultimately to your question, it's a formula that the school district has calculated, and it has passed several, or my understanding that it's passed a court
Okay,
test.
well, okay. Well, I'm sure that they can, I understand that. I guess I'm trying to understand, what they are requiring is going to affect our city as a whole. So, you know, in other words, if they're, I am trying to prevent the city from becoming simply low-income housing, because that's all they're going to be able to build so that they can get grants to build multifamily. So I don't, you know, we haven't been involved in any discussions whatsoever with the school board or the city council on why their impact fees are the way they are. I guess I'd like to know from them, why is their new finance director going to come and explain it to our next meeting? Or I'm hesitant to adopt this because I need to know the reason why.
Yes, and we can have them come present. They presented last summer. They presented multiple times. We presented multiple times on this subject, so we can do it again as well if you'd like.
Thank you.
So for clarification, the the $15,073, this is for a unit that has 4 bedrooms or more, right?
Correct.
If they
That's right.
build a unit that has only, say, 2-bedroom unit, then the fee would be significantly lower.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Council President Honda.
Thank you. So for the school impact fees, if a developer is looking at our fee schedule and wanted to build condos, which is what we would prefer over rental multifamily units, would they know that we had a sliding scale for the fee based on the amount of bedrooms? If it's not in our fee schedule?
It should be in there. Is it not in there?
I didn't see it. I just saw the one for the 1,500 or 50, yeah.
It should be there.
Well, if it, I didn't see it, so I would like it to be there.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
maybe
If it's
I'm
not in there,
overlooking it.
Yeah, if it's not in there, it needs to be in there.
So
I
what
don't know
is
why it
the
would be taken out.
what is the lowest amount for a 1-bedroom unit? What would be
Chase,
the lowest amount?
I don't have the schedule in front of me. This was adopted by the council last year, so
Yeah.
yeah, if you go down the
Okay,
bottom
so-
there, that shows all the reductions.
So based on this slide, what I see right now is 1-bedroom unit is $7,537.
Maybe.
So I guess my other question, Brian, is, and I know this is a school district question, but we've had these fees this high or higher for a number of years now with the school district, and the city council has consistently passed them as what the school district has requested us of. I know that at least one other city at one point didn't pass these high fees, school impact fees. They went lower, which was a few years ago. But if someone is building a single family home and their school impact fee is going to be $1,800, and that house could have 3, 4, or 5 bedrooms, you would have more children in that than a 1-bedroom unit in a multifamily. So you would impact the school district more. And if it's in a complex where someone is building a development where someone is building 25 or more homes, which would attract families, that would have a significant impact on the school district. Am I looking at this the wrong way?
No. If I could be frank for a minute, the council in the past didn't want the fees to go lower because they were concerned about apartments going in the city. And so they have adopted the higher rates. But we're planning the housing action plan. We would love to revise these fees, work with the school district on somehow lowering them so that we can see more a better mix of housing coming to the city. So I'm your advocate in that respect, but we've consistently adopted the high fees because they're out of fear that there's just going to be a rush of apartments. And there is great pressure of that happening. Once the fees go lower, then there likely is going to see a rush of additional housing units come to the city. And again, that helps with the housing need that we've established, but there is a sentiment that we don't want a rapid influx of apartments like before. So it's been a balance that the council's tried to establish. But if you want to look at these fees, I'm more than happy to do that and have that discussion with the school district. But it's kind of been a taboo discussion until now.
Yeah. So have you heard from any condo developers that these fees impact them, that they won't come here because of these fees?
Yes and no. I mean, the fees in general are discouraging any kind of multifamily development, which condos are a part of that. So condos, discussions with developers, there's other factors beyond just permit fees that are not penciling out for them in federal way. There's rates that they can't reach to make it worth. And I don't have the numbers, but that's just kind of the general anecdote that has been communicated to me, is that because of the land prices and just our market and where we're situated in King County, and then also in relation to Tacoma, that condos, there are not the amenities that make the condos work in Federal Way than, say, like, Redondo, which is, not too far away. So that's probably the closest example that I can come up with. But just condo developers are typically looking for something adjacent to them that would benefit someone that would want to buy them. And so far they haven't had that. Impact fees and permit fees, they're a deterrent, but they're not. If someone really wants to come here, there's long-term investments that get beyond permit fees and things of that nature. But for the time being, yes, permit fees are a factor.
Okay, good to know. So my other question, if I could go to, is the community center and the increased fees, which I understand the community center has been, we don't like it to lose money. So I am concerned that just coming out of a pandemic, that perhaps raising the fees could be an issue. And on the other hand, I know that as a council, we would like to see it raise money and not lose money as a community center. So I'm a little torn on saying anything, but I am concerned that we are increasing the fees, and I'd like to make sure that we have scholarship money available for families and seniors and youth who this increased fee could impact, or even the regular fee could impact. I'd like to make sure that those who want to use the community center and financially, it just doesn't work, that we reach out and that we have something to work with them. So it is the Federal Way Community Center, and I would like to see it available to anyone who would like to use it.
Council President.
Thank you.
Council President, I don't believe that we had parks staff available tonight. They were double booked. I can pass that on to them, and we can circle back to you, have them circle back to you directly on that. If that's okay.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see Autumn floating on.
Linda, go ahead. Oh, sorry.
Oh, thank you, Chair Tran. It was that Linda or Lydia? I'm fine with whatever. I'll go ahead. Thank you. A couple of things. Yeah, thank you, Council President Honda. I agree. I would like to know, even with we used to have 1,000 people a day using the community center. I'm sure that's lower now, but I'm wondering if raising these prices, I guess I'd like to know how many people are actually using the community center right now, and raising the prices, if that's going to make fewer people able to use it. And I'd like to see it open to more use by our teens and our young people who perhaps need to learn how to use a computer, or have our people who have coming to our community as new immigrants need to understand how to speak English, or in other words, using our community center more in the way of a resource for the community in other ways, not just for exercise or for so I'd like to see, so maybe I'll talk to John Hutton about that for my Parks Committee. But I would like to know if the higher fees would particularly reduce the number of people who do use the community center. So, the other thing, back to the school impact fees and these decisions are being made by somebody. It's certainly, I haven't, we haven't had a discussion by council, and we haven't had a meeting with the school board to find out, what their thinking is. So I'm wondering, for example, Town Square was built, Park 16 was built. DEFCO has been putting in applications for apartments, low income, also known as affordable housing. But, we do need, Brian, I agree with you, we do need a mix of housing. And, without without being a hardship on the schools. I guess I'm concerned with how are we going to get to that mix of housing?
Yes, and we can't lower it.
So
for
before
one.
I vote for the fee,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we
I'm
can't
just
lower.
concerned about voting for the fee schedule. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that we can't establish one fee for one income type of housing and a separate fee for another income type of housing. So if we lower the impact fees for multifamily, it's for all multifamily. It's not for just market rate. It would have to be across the board. So there's that lowering the fees certainly would encourage more housing, but it would be all types of housing. And before the fees went up significantly in 2017, Federal Way was not seeing market rate. It was only seeing affordable developments. So that certainly is another a possibility. And so we would need to find out what other incentives we could do to bring market rate.
Yeah. Thank you. I'd like to have a study session at some point to discuss that whole issue. It might be too late at this point, but at some point I'd like to, Council President, perhaps you could schedule a study session in the future.
All right. Earlier,
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Earlier, I saw.
Chair Tran,
yes.
Can I say one more thing? So the council recently approved the application for a grant towards Housing Action Plan implementation. And we did have a conversation with the granting agency today about our application, which we're very likely to get awarded. And our application is going to be, or our award, is going to be centered around looking at the gaps that the city currently has with mixed housing mix. And part of that analysis will take a look at school impact fees. Now, every year we've done this, but each year we've done something different. Like last year we implemented the bedroom discount, which was the first time, and we've had multiple discussions at the council level. So I do need to say that has happened. And the school district has presented to the council several times in the last, most recently last summer and last few years. So there has been discussions at the council level. However, I do think further discussion is needed, to your point, and we should be getting some grant funding to have a more in-depth analysis of ways to look at our housing gap to begin with, but just more specifically the school impact fees. That's if we are awarded, that is a project that's going to take us into next year. So it's not going to be an answer that we get by the time this fee schedule is proposed for adoption, but it's likely something that could be implemented. If there's a change to the school impact fees, we could do it mid-year next year or this time of year next year after that analysis is done, and then we can bring it back to the council for consideration. So I just want you to be aware that it's on our minds too, and we are securing funding to have a closer look at it.
Thank you, Brian. I do remember Sally McLean coming last summer. So this is, like a year and a half, or my second year here back in on the council. And so there may have been discussions prior to last summer that I'm not aware of, but I would appreciate a new conversation about it. That's great. Thank you.
Brian, thank you for that information. Earlier, I saw Councilmember Sarah Dawson raise her hand. Lydia, do you still want to?
No, I lowered it. It would have to do with, I wanted to support what Council President Honda was saying around scholarships and making sure that our residents are equitably served at the community center. But I was also waiting to hear what Autumn was about to say. So that's why I lowered my hand, because I wanted to hear what Autumn was going to say.
Okay, thank you. Okay, go ahead, Autumn.
I was just going to circle back in regards to the question around how the community center is serving low-income families. I know there's questions and concerns about raising the fees, so I'll certainly have answers to you about the impact of usage. But in regards to low-income families, the community center does operate a fee reduction program that low-income families, there's a threshold and sort of a sliding scale, can get anywhere from 25 to 100% of their fees reduced. Leaf and I just worked on a grant for the slide, and that was one of the questions and some details that we had to include to go over how we're serving our community and how adding to our facility will not only enhance the experience at the community center, but to also ensure that low-income families have access still.
Great, thank you for that information. That was one of my concerns too. Thank you. Committee Member Kraft.
Thank you, Chair Tran, and thank you, Brian, for that explanation. I see that the recommendation is for this to be forwarded to the December 7th consent agenda. So we still have time to actually get our answers or get our questions answered, right? About for like the build for multifamily housing, the school impact fee, for example. We can even have a discussion about how many people are using the community center, how many people would be impacted. Is that right? Since it's not until December.
I can answer this. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
No, I was just going to say that this is one of the several items that the city clerk has on schedule to be publicly noticed, and so that's why it's on for December 7th, same as the ordinance for the budget, the mid-biennial budget adjustment and the property tax rate, which does give us time to answer lots of questions.
Okay, wonderful. And I support having this discussion before we actually have to vote on it for council. So even if we forward it today, we could hopefully schedule a meeting before December 7th.
That sounds very reasonable.
So
Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Councilmember Kraft, it could be forwarded without a recommendation from the committee.
Wonderful, thank you.
And
I see Ryan.
can I make
Go
a
ahead,
suggestion? Ryan. This is Ryan. We won't have time to schedule another meeting on this topic before the 7th. So if you want to have a discussion about it, I would recommend that you put it on business for discussion. We have basically one meeting and then another meeting. So I don't foresee us having time to have a meeting just for these topics, if that was the intent.
So if we are going
to
put
clarify,
this on
we don't. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So to clarify, there is no time in the month of November to have a discussion.
Well, the next November meeting is the one we're talking about, the 3rd, and then the one after that is the only remaining meeting in November. So there's one November meeting left, and then there's one December meeting left, and then that's the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, Leandra, Councilmember Kraft, would you like to move this forward without a recommendation to the December 7th business agenda for discussion?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
Okay, I move to forward the proposed 2022 fee schedule resolution to the December 7th, 2021 business agenda for discussion.
So Ryan, is that good enough for the motion?
That is, that's perfect.
For discussion and possible approval, does it sound right?
Right, that's all this body does, is forward things to consent. So that's
Okay.
a perfect motion.
Okay. All right. All right, and I'll second that. Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second to move this item to the business agenda on December 7th. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The matter passed 3-0. Thank you, everybody. And now we are moving to item F, Ordinance 2021-2022 Biennium Budget Amendment. Steve?
Thank you. While Chase is starting this screen, I will say that this agenda item is one that is, this is a course correction for the current biennium's budget. And I try to say in humor pretty often that every budget is obsolete the moment it's adopted. And that's because the world doesn't stop changing just because we have to freeze a budget process to get it printed, presented, go through hearings, and it takes time to make sure every page and schedule is in agreement with the entire document. And by that time, something has happened in the real world, and the budget we adopted needs a course correction. And that's just at the moment we adopt. You all have seen that most commonly we bring grants that are approved. That's where we want to bring new revenue that we couldn't have budgeted in good conscience until it was actually approved. And there's other circumstances that we have, and Chase works with all departments to accumulate the things that the department brings. Some items have already been brought to City Council for approval, and all we need to do is collect all the budget changes and bring them in a batch. So with that, I will get out of the way and let Chase proceed. Thank you, Chase.
Good evening. Before you is this packet for the different budget adjustments, and I'm just going to highlight a few. The table that's in your packet, we've listed every single dollar amount in the description, but let me describe for you some of the more material ones. A couple of those include a transfer of $700,000 to the community center to support the community center, and $150,000 for Dumas Bay to support that facility as well. We also have made some insurance adjustments for premium increases and settlements for the risk fund that is funded by the general fund. In addition, we've added the police force expansion of the 13 new police officers and the 2 record specialists that have already been approved. We just need to include it within the ordinance, as well as the first year of the body-worn camera program. In addition, one of the requests that's added as a proposed adjustment within this ordinance is planning department consultant for preparing a city sub-area plan related to the South Station and the grant funding that could be available through that. And lastly, one of the items that we're just going to point out are a number of IT security additions that hadn't been added for the first year, but we're starting to work on, and IT needs in order to keep the city secure and safe. So in the general fund, the total adjustment, excuse me, sorry. I apologize. The total adjustment is $1,656,000 and $1,600,000 in 2022. Go to the next slide. This is the adjustments in the non-general funds. This schedule is all in your packet, and I'd like to bring a few of the items to your attention. One is the arterial straight overlay program. You'll see $810,000 in 2021 and $186,000 in 2022. This is primarily, the 2021 amount is primarily due to an overlay project that started in 2020 but was completed in 2021, so it needed to be carried forward, and we've done that adjustment within this packet, as well as a pavement repair project that's included in this ordinance adjustment. Secondly, I pointed out the body-worn camera program that has come before council and has been approved to use traffic safety fund, red light photo funds as a one-time cost, and so that's $583,000 in 2021 and $46,000 in 2022. Thirdly, I've highlighted the arterial street overlay program for residential streets. That's just a carry forward from 2021. They're going to underspend in 2021. They're just carrying forward the expense into 2022 of $900,000, as well as CDBG community development block grant projects and contracts with subrecipients that have been delayed of $846,133, moved from 21 to 22. Within this adjustment, we've also done a jail services decrease of $1.5 million due to less expenditures needed within the fund. And then transportation CIP projects of $1.6 million in 2021 and $1.8 million in 2022. One of these amounts is due to legal expenses for SR 99 HOV lanes phase 5. That's a carry forward, as well as compact roundabout projects and various transportation projects that are carried forward from prior years. Lastly, I've highlighted the police vehicle expanded fleet and patrol cars that was approved as part of the expansion of police officers of $1.7 million. That's funded by the 504 Fleet and Equipment Fund. So all funds after all of these adjustments remain within the City Council's fund balance reserve policy, and staff recommends approval. And we'd be happy to answer any questions. Some of the next steps is one, this meeting, the FedRec discussion of the budget. November 3rd, there's a planned public hearing for the amendment and the property tax ordinance. November 16th, an additional public hearing, and then December 7th would be the enactment of the ordinance. And we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chase. Council President Honda.
Thank you. I have 3 questions. One, last week I attended an AWC Large City Advisory Committee that I'm on, and AWC mentioned that the state legislature may be looking at a bill that would pay for body-worn cameras for police departments across the state. If that happens, then would we be refunded by if we already have body cameras, or would we just, those cities who have already gone ahead and purchased these, would they not be able to be refunded? Secondly, the decrease in the jail amount, I'm concerned with decreasing that. Eventually, we are going to be putting people back into jail, I assume. And the police cars, I thought, were funded by ARPA.
I'll take a stab at all 3 of those. On the body-worn cameras, what we're looking for is budgetary approval. If another funding source comes up, then that just gives us flexibility. The jail cost, correct me if I'm wrong, Chase, I think what we're trying to adjust there is we're trying to manage our fund balance ratios. I'm not positive about. And then on the jail, and then on the purchase of the police cars, you're exactly right. We are using ARPA funding, but we need to make a transfer to the vehicle fund. So this gives us the budgetary approval in the vehicle fund to go ahead and purchase the cars using ARPA funds.
Okay.
I'm sorry. We try to make it as complicated as possible. I apologize.
And Council President Honda, to your first question, it really depends on how the law is passed. So it could be either of those options. So they very well could say only for new projects, but they could easily take into account that many of us have already put money forward into this.
Okay, well, I guess then we have to work with our lobbyists and our state legislators to make sure that
absolutely
everyone is covered. Okay, thank you.
Great questions. Thank you. Anybody else? Linda, you are muted.
Pesky little button. I was just going to say, Council President Honda, it is pretty frustrating when we do our street overlay and then there's money that comes from the federal government to other cities that haven't bothered to do their street overlay program. So you're right to be looking at that. So thank you. So Chair Tran, if there's no other discussion, I'll move to hold a public hearing. Oops. On November 3rd, at the November 3rd agenda, and forward the proposed ordinance to the November 16, 2021 council meeting for first reading.
I'll second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Matter passed 3-0. Thank you, everybody. And we are moving on item G, Ordinance 2022 Property Tax Levy.
Thank you, sir. This is the 3rd state I've worked in, and property tax is one of the least interesting and most complex items. And this is not going to be. I will try to make it interesting and entertaining. However, this is a property tax levy, and you probably are all familiar with how it works every year. The city requests a levy amount from the county, and it's highly formula driven. The assessed value is subject to a 1% cap on existing property. The county supplies us all of the data. They do send us a form where they ask us to fill in additional items, which in our case, none apply. Here you can see that they've given us an assessed value. Now they update this weekly, so this number kind of tends to change. However, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are asking a sufficient amount so that should any further changes happen in the valuation, we're never in the position where we can't have requested what they collect. So there's two items right there, A and B, and those come straight from the county assessor's worksheet. And they give us lots of information, but at the same time, there's very little that's discretionary. In the language of the ordinance in your packet, you will see at the bottom of the first page and the top of the second page the exact figures. We're asking for a levy of 12.6 million. Yes, 12.6 million. We don't expect to collect that much. We don't expect them to, but we want to ask a sufficient amount. And then there's also a very specific 110,136 and a 0.96% from the previous year. And the county has provided that calculation and the figures for it. I would love to make it interesting. Now, this slide is not, this is a graph that's not in your packet. And I realize now I really should have included it in your cover memo because I think this is interesting. What it shows is the trend in the city's historical assessed valuation at the top in those blue bars. You just saw that the county told us what their current estimate of the assessed valuation is, and their final assessed value every year, if I put it on a trend, you can see that this is what in total the value to our property owners has increased. Well, good for us running a good city. Our property owners enjoy increased value. The bottom green bars, that shows what our levy, what our revenue is that we're able to collect in past years and what we think we're really going to collect next year. And instead of going up by large percentage points, 6, and 13, our revenue only goes up, 1, 2, 3, and these are rounded figures, but still, this is why we always request the maximum levy allowed, because even doing that, our property tax revenue isn't going to keep up with inflation in most years. It's one of the challenges to our budgeting, and those of you that have been through a budget process know that. So this is completely formula driven. The assessed valuation is determined for us. The levy is capped for existing property, and one of the things that cities do is they compare what are the tax rate, and nowhere do you have an opportunity to set a tax rate. The assessed value is given for us, and the amount that we can levy is given for us, and you just divide one by the other times 1,000, and you end up with a rate that you couldn't set if you wanted to. That's how the system works, and the best I can do is be completely transparent and show you how it works, and at the same time, we'll be asking you to hold two hearings and then enact an ordinance, and we hope to collect the maximum amount that we can. And that's everything I can think of for this item. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Steve. I see the hands of the committee member, Linda Kochma. Go ahead.
So that's for existing property. So if we had, if we were building new property, then it would be
new property is a
implicit price deflator, correct?
Yes. Which is above the 1%. Yes. That's why the blended average comes out above 1.
So if on our retreat next year, if we start discussing a little bit about how to annex areas east of the freeway, because that's, if you're we either have to build in the air because we don't really have land to develop, or multifamily type, or do, accessory dwelling units. If we started annexing in some of the developable property east of the freeway, if people wanted to agree to that, or if we annexed it in, we then could do this at price deflator, right? We'd get a higher evaluation, a higher property tax levy, correct?
That's correct.
Well, maybe that's something we need to talk in our retreat in January about issues like annexation.
Very
Just
good.
an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
February.
Oh, February. Okay.
Not January.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, seeing none.
I will entertain a
Councilmember
motion,
Kraft, did you want to make a motion or?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Oh,
So I can make the motion.
Thank you.
I move to hold a public hearing on November 3rd, 2021 and forward the proposed ordinance to the November 16th, 2021 council meeting for first reading.
thank you. I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Question for Steve? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The matter passed 3-0. Thank you. We are moving on to the last two items on the agenda. Item H, AP vouchers, 9/16/2021 through 10/15/2021, and payroll voucher 9/1/2021, 9/30/2021. Jace?
Okay, I'm just going to speak to it. So good evening, Council Chair Tran, Council Committee members. Before you are the AP vouchers from 9/16 to 10/15/2021 and payroll vouchers from 9/1 to 9/30/2021 in the amount of $3,336,607.32 for AP vouchers and payroll vouchers in the amount of $3,984,476.39. The second page of your packet details out some of the major vouchers. It says August, it's supposed to say September. It details some of the items. Page 8 says construction projects of $290,000, consulting contracts of $128,000 on page 9, Valleycom, which is our police call station, for $429,000, medical claims for our self-insured insurance of $310,000, and repairs and maintenance of $309,000 on page 44. We've compared that to prior months vouchers of August of $6,054,000 that we listed out last month, and July had $3,788,000. And then as you can see below on that page, the payroll vouchers have been comparable at $3.9 million for both September and August and July. And so they're very comparable. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. We did send an email before the meeting for Council President Honda's questions. So thank you for those questions. And we'd be glad to answer any other questions that you may have.
Also, President Honda, are you satisfied with the answer that you received? Just want to make sure.
I think so. I got it just before the meeting, so I just kind of skimmed through it, but I'll look at it more in depth later.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have?
And that's because I sent my questions in late. I'm sorry I sent them in so late, but.
We will answer emails anytime you'd like to send them, and we can follow up after the meeting as well. Thank you. I appreciate the dialogue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Chair Tran, if there's no discussion, then I move to forward the vouchers to the November 3rd, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. The matter passed 3-0. Woo, we are coming down to the last one. Item I, monthly financial report, September 2021.
Thank you. This is the highlight. This is interesting. No, and to be honest with you, this month, staff spent a lot of time on the previous items, on the fee schedule, the budget amendment, and the tax levy. That was a lot of time and effort. And so this is going to be very brief. It's going to be very similar to last month's, and I'm looking forward to next month, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But I have good news for you. Pretty much nothing but good news. In your packet, you have a memo, and in the very first page, on the very couple, first sentences, I've just got what we're going to tell you every month. We're going to tell you how revenues are doing and how expenditures are doing. Revenues are favorable to budget by 1.3 million or 3%. That's pretty much actual. We know when we receive money, that's cash in the bank. With expenditures, a little bit less certainty. They are favorable by 1.3 million or 3.4%, but there's always kind of a tail on invoices. So we feel less concrete about that one. Nevertheless, we will report to you every month where we're at. On the city's cash trend, this is the one I'm really looking forward to next month, and I will give you a peek. You can see that it's already, it's continuing an upward trend. We know that we got some ARPA money. We got a $9 million bump a few months back. But, I think I've shown you this slide before where looking at the trend where the yellow bars are checking and the green bars are what we have in the state pool, and blue down at the bottom is what we used to have in investments. Next month, you see that little blue bar at the bottom? We have already done 4 trades, and we're eager to tell you about those. We'll bring you details about that next month. We have exceeded expectations. The interest rates have gone up just a little bit. That's nothing but good news. And the other pieces that we want to share with you, sales tax revenue continues to be favorable to budget. This is in your packet. The scale on the left showing 20 million. The actual budget is more like 16 million, and sales tax is about $1 million ahead of prior year. That's wonderful news, right? If we look at the month by month, the bright green bars, you can see that the most recent month, it's an increase over prior year. You look back last year in 2020, there's those 2 red bars. Those are really the only 2 down months that the city has had. So this is good news for the economics of the city as a whole. This is just a good economic indicator. The sales tax that our businesses receive, remit to the state, send back to us. This is a good barometer of how our city is doing economically. Another indicator is utility tax. And again, you can see the bright green bars are generally higher than prior month. And if you look at the accumulated as the year progresses, we're doing better than budget, better than prior year being that little thin blue line and budget being the gray bar. And this too is a really significant revenue to the city. So that's important for us to make sure that we're reporting. Real estate excise tax. This is very interesting. The scale here, it isn't 20 million, it's only 5 million, but still August came in 611,000 over the same month prior year. Cumulatively, we're 1.4 million ahead. So we budgeted not knowing the final month last year. We did a very conservative budget. We've already exceeded budget this year by 207,000. The year isn't over. And here you can see the bright green bars of the most recent month. Actually, September is kind of pretty much the same as last year, but look at the prior months. They were all really strong, and that's an excellent indicator of how real estate is doing. So as every month, we just want to make sure that we are reporting to you how our revenues are doing. They're favorable. Expenses also favorable. We're watching, to make sure that invoices trickle in and we keep up with that. We are monitoring cash on our fund balances, and we made our first investments on October. I'm not sure if it was the 1st, it might have been the 5th. I am looking forward to sharing that with you next month. So we will always keep you informed, and I enjoy bringing good news to the committee. Happy to answer any questions. That's the last thing I have between you and the end of the meeting.
Committee Member Kraft.
Thank you, Chair Tran. I just a quick comment. I just wanted to say thank you, Steve, again. I really do appreciate seeing the memos at the start of the budget and also the graphs. It does make reviewing the line items a lot easier for me because I'm a more visual person. So thank you.
Thank you. I'll pass it on to staff because we have fun preparing them and finding new ways to show information that's complex in a more clear way.
Committee members, Linda Kochman.
Thank you, Chair Tran. I have a couple of questions for Steve. Steve, do you anticipate, with Amazon Fresh coming in, that's going to be grocery sales, but I would imagine it's more than grocery. Do we anticipate an increase in sales tax revenue in that area?
I want to be real careful when we talk about sales tax with specific vendors. That's confidential information, but anytime a new business opens up, we think that's good. And
Okay.
we want all businesses to thrive. When they thrive, our budget thrives. So
Okay, and so on REIT, I know that we've had some sales of some big buildings, and also our housing prices have gone up. So when we've sold our housing stock, that's been an increase in value, which has been shocking, actually. So I guess what I'm wondering, once the rent eviction moratorium is lifted, I am wondering if we're going to see an influx of either project sales, building sales, or housing sales for those who are mom and pop landlords or those who are wanting to get out of the rental. And I'm wondering how that's going to affect our citizens who are going to have trouble finding rental housing in our city. Do you have any answers to that at all, or have anything come in talking about that?
well, thank you for the question. Finance is the department that you want to have a
Whether the
crystal ball.
whether the eviction moratorium.
Yeah, finance is where you want to have a crystal ball, and we don't. The best indicator that we have of the future is the actual trends that I bring you month by month. If we were in a budget process, that's what we would be talking about. We would be trying to forecast the next couple of years' revenue. I'm glad we're not. But what I'm showing you is good news at the moment. But yeah, I hesitate to speculate. Good, but it's important to know our city. You're exactly right.
Thank you.
Council President Hunter.
Thank you. Steve, sometime last year, a day brought to us using some federal money to, I don't know what I would call it. It would take the budget and the financial information and put it into a program where people could play with it and move it around. Are you working on that? I know it wasn't finished when he left.
I'll be honest.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I sure do. That's an application that we paid for, and we have been working on implementing. Chase Donnelly has done the bulk of the work. We have been working on it in the background. It's not quite ready to go live, but yes, it has always been making progress, and I think we are pretty close. Now that we've got our tax levy and our budget amendment done, I think maybe we can get back to things like that. But yes, thank you for reminding us. Still in process.
You broke up, so I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that application is in process. Staff
Could
has
you
been
repeat what you said?
Sure. Yes, we do have the application. The staff has been working on it. It's close to implementing it, and we'll let you know when it does.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Thank you, Chair Tran. I move to forward the September 2021 monthly financial report to the November 3rd, 2021 consent agenda for approval.
Thank you, Councilmember Kraft. I second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Matter passed 3-0. Well, let's see. Our next meeting is going to be November 23rd, 2021 at 5 p.m. And at this point, I'm not even sure if we are going to be in person or Zoom. I would assume we still be on Zoom, but if there's any chances, we will let you know. I know the meeting today is a little bit long because we have a lot of items, and all of them are really, really good items. So I really appreciate everybody for being here. We really appreciate it. And with that, we are now concluded this meeting. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.
Night.
Aye.